Hello media lovers, my name is Maya, but you can just call me Mediahead. So I was binge watching YouTube as you do, and I came across a video about—
It's Black History Month.
Wait, seriously?
Yeah, it's February.
Fuck, 2021 is already starting to feel like 2020 in terms of realizing what time is. Seriously, it is?
Yeah, it's been for a couple weeks now. Haven't you been paying attention?
No, I haven't been paying attention. I haven't. Fuck. Well, fuck this shit. Okay, let's try this again. So it looks like it's that time of year again where we as a community can talk a whole bunch about anything pertaining to blackness, and anyone who feels uncomfortable about that concept can just fuck right the hell off. When I thought about what I wanted to do for this glorious month, I had a couple ideas in mind, but at the end of the day, all I really wanted to do was ramble for a whole bunch of minutes about a whole bunch of black tropes. So that's what I'm going to do. I went on TV Tropes and gathered all of the tropes from their Black Index, yes, that's actually what they call it, and put them in a list. And in doing so, I found that a whole bunch of those tropes pertain to 5 categories in particular. Black violence, which is basically having violence towards a black person or having the black person be violent in general. The black person being as non-threatening as humanly possible, probably in an effort to avoid black violence. Let's talk racism, which I'm honestly not going to talk about that much because I find talking about it boring for a video like this, and I'm already gonna talk about racism in it. Tropes that are a rebranding of stereotypes from the slavery and/or Jim Crow eras, just yay. And miscellaneous. Spoiler alert, the miscellaneous section has a whole lot more tropes in it than the other ones, which sounds great until you realize I'm an actual maniac and I did more than just sort a whole bunch of stuff in columns. As you can see here, there are also a whole bunch of pretty colors, and to save you some time, though it's here and on my Twitter if you want to check it out, I color-coded the tropes by just how problematic they are. Black means they're pretty neutral, or at least any problematic elements related to them are debatable or just so dead that it doesn't matter anymore. Meanwhile, all the others range from I'll let it slide to please kill it with fire. And more than a fourth of those tropes fell into the latter, ranging anywhere from black is bigger in bed to black like me, which is a trope and an autobiography, which is based around the idea of with the power of makeup, plastic surgery, or some sci-fi or magic weapon, I have obtained the appearance of an African American. I'm probably either this way because I needed a disguise, I was just that much of a bigot and karma got me, or I'm like Lois Lane and I chose this for myself because I'm just that fucking tone deaf. I'm off to learn a valuable life lesson about how horribly black people have it in America after being discriminated a whole bunch in the most dramatic ways possible because microaggressions apparently don't exist. And then I'll be able to go back to my original race no problem, and after having learned all the intricacies of racism in 48 hours, I will declare that I'll become an activist. I will never become an activist. Now, admittedly, some of those tropes, like black like me, the mammy, magical negro, funny afro, yes, there's one called funny afro. Hey, how do I let the audience know right away that the character is incompetent or insane? Give them a perfectly round afro to show they can't take care of themselves. Got it, thanks. Are on their way out. However, just because a whole bunch of tropes have been dying lately doesn't mean that some of the more problematic ones have yet to die a horrible death. The black boss lady, for example, is a pretty neutral trope on its own. It's a woman who is black and a boss. Unsurprisingly, having a character like this immediately tells the audience that they are very competent and not a force to be reckoned with. I mean, they were able to go past all the bullshit in the system to become a boss. You don't want to mess with someone like that, and you don't want to underestimate someone like that. However, the badassness of this trope kind of gets downplayed when you think about, say, examples of this trope. Regardless of your favorite genre or even form of media, The examples that you thought of, if you were able to think of more than one or two, probably mostly consists of rigid, intimidating hardasses who, whether deliberately or not, are written with traditionally masculine traits, whether it be in the way they dress, their speech pattern, or sometimes even the way they walk, or the way that they look, like their facial structure. Don't get me wrong, I personally know plenty of examples of black women who act exactly like that in the workplace, specifically so even if an older white male colleague, whether they be a subordinate or even their own boss, hates them for being more competent than them, they're too afraid of them to do anything about it. But all of them, every single black boss lady in media is exactly like that. And very rarely are they written being soft to their subordinates or having a secretly protective side to them or even having a moment with them at home being a completely normal person who isn't constantly a hard ass. Nope, she's just terrifying, or she's a defrosting ice queen. Now, the implications of every single female black boss in media being this intimidating and sometimes even coded as more masculine figure is already awkward on its own, but could be explained away by exactly what I just said about black women purposely having that persona in order to get ahead. If it weren't for the fact that it sounds a lot like an old stereotype called the sapphire, which is exactly what I just said, a domineering, intimidating black woman who is also traditionally masculine, specifically purposely wearing masculine clothes in an attempt to look more in charge than she actually is. She's loud, and if she's not loud, she is the embodiment of tranquil fury, and she is constantly getting cut off from loved ones because of a bad attitude. And even if a black boss lady doesn't completely fall into that stereotype of the sapphire, it's probably because she has less of an angry black woman angle and more of a sassy black woman angle. The perfect fusion of these two tropes is Cookie Lyon from the show Empire. Remember Empire? That show on Fox? That was really good until Fox did exactly what it does all the time and takes a good show and completely fucks it over in some way, this time by just dragging it out until it's roadkill on the highway. Domineering, terrifying as hell, cut off from loved ones, and literally introduced sashaying out of prison, Cookie Lyon also has a very feminine fashion sense specifically, which adds to her, well, sassiness. Most of the time, however, the sassy black woman doesn't get to be the black boss lady. More often than not, she's the token black friend to the main character in the show or whatever, giving advice or being in some other side character role. If you're a 90s or 2000s kid, most black female characters you can think of probably fell into this category. And if they were voiced by Cream Summers, that percentage just went up by a whole bunch. However, this trope is not completely dead in the 2000s. You still see the occasional example pop up, say, in movies like Tall Girl, where there's a side character whose name I don't care enough about that movie to look up, or say in Freaky, or one of the most recent examples that's loved, Lady Danbury from Bridgerton. And tropes like this get even funnier when you come up with instances where someone, whether they be the writer, the director, or even the casting director, are trying their damnedest to make a product that screams, "We're not racist!" The black boss lady is probably the most obvious example if it's used really poorly, though the most common way of doing this is just having a token black character. Though I think my favorite is Black and Nerdy, where a character can't possibly be problematic because that black character is being depicted as a total nerd. Hi, black best friend. What do you want, white MC? Well, I was thinking, since you're a major tech geek and you haven't graduated high school early, or 90% of the time either haven't been picked up by a big organization or for some reason left the big organization, that you could do a quick little favor for me.
You want me to hack into your boyfriend's computer?
I don't know what I get him for his birthday. Just off the top of my head, we got Tucker from Fairly Odd Parents, Cookie from Ned's Declassified School Survival Guide, we got AJ from Fairly Odd Parents, we've got Virgil Hawkins, and we got Cyborg post-trauma. God, Nickelodeon really likes that trope, don't they? And don't get me wrong, not every instance of black or nerdy, including a good portion of the examples I just listed, are just a writer trying to not be racist, but I do find it funny that very recently that a black character is allowed to be something other than extremely athletic and or violent and extremely nerdy and non-threatening. However, sometimes you just get a writer who says, bring on the violence, and this is when I bring up that black violence column I mentioned earlier. Black dude dies first is so cliche and so infuriating that most of the time nowadays when it's bring up, it's only as a joke, though angry black man and scary black man are still very common. The scary black man is in this weird position where their personality a lot of the time has nothing to do with whether or not they count as this trope. All you need to be a scary black man is be black or some other form of ambiguous dark-skinned and be intimidating. That is literally it. As a result, sometimes the scary black man isn't an actual threat at all, or their intimidation factor has nothing to do with, say, their size or sometimes even the inherent look of them. As a result, I couldn't bring myself to put this trope in the reds and have it be amongst the mammies and the magical Negroes because this trope can be used in so many different versatile, good ways that it's really not going to traumatize that many people as long as you use it sparingly. Then you have the angry black man, which is a lot more annoying. Depending on your definition of angry black man, this trope can either be occasionally problematic, but whatever, just like the scary black man, to why in the ever-living hell is this still here? If we're talking about the OG definition of the angry black man, then all hope is lost. This character is extremely angry at the man specifically and is basically a straw man that you can just tip over when they start in-universe spouting absolute bullshit that makes no damn sense when you look at it closely. And that's actually what they do in the media that they're spouting nonsense in. The entire point of this character is to basically make fun of certain arguments that are genuinely nonsense, but having no alternative really be given. The OG angry black man will be one of those people who will be angry at white people for being privileged, but they're angry at every white person. It doesn't matter if this white person is a genuine ally who tries to use the fact that they have privilege to change the system from their side so that there's more equality and equity. No, this black person will go as far as just fucking hating every single white person, and if they feel bad, then they view it as pity. Like, it's one of those scenarios, and it just kind of makes me want to die inside. But then you have the newer definition of the angry black man, which is literally just a black man who has anger issues and is angry at literally everything. And once again, it's only very recently that people have actually looked at this trope and gone, you might have a mental illness and we might be able to make a character develop out of you. I'm not saying that it's illegal to use that last one, but it is used so poorly most of the time. Now, that doesn't mean that every single trope pertaining to black people is inherently racist or a desperate attempt to not be racist. Tropes at the end of the day are just patterns. That's all they've ever been. And yes, that does mean that a good portion of them have a really ugly history just due to the fact that certain events have not been over for that long. However, there are some tropes that are genuinely neutral or just straight up hilarious, so I'm just gonna talk about some of those now. For example, there is the electric black guy who is often combined with black and nerdy, but not always, who has electric powers, like whether that be electrokinesis or some other variant. And I don't know why this exists. And neither does anyone else. Some people have traced it back to Black Lightning and the million XPs that came out of people not being allowed to use them legally. Other people have seen it as coming from Storm and her popularity, since she technically does have electricity-based powers. And some people have looked at Static and wondered if the popularity surge came from him. And there's even a writer named Matt Wayne, he's a screenwriter and a comic book writer, who suggested in an interview that maybe, possibly, writers are writing these characters with electric powers, specifically because a lot of them have physical vulnerability. You can say shoot them with a bullet and kill them. And a way of trying to bring down black superheroes and give them tameable powers. Oh my god. Whatever reason there truly is for black characters constantly having electricity-based powers in media, or in some cases plasma, because someone remembered one day that that's what electricity is actually made out of. I just find that trope just hilarious in general. There's also bald black leader guy, which is exactly what it sounds like. We're just a black male character who's a leader will just have no hair. Not a small buzz cut or like a little bit of hair. No, they have to be bald, and that is a qualification for this trope. I don't know if someone saw Bald of Awesome and went, ooh, let's just have that but for black characters. But this is a consistent thing as well. Now, sometimes there's an off-screen, like, IRL reason for this, but it happens so often, and I'd say that maybe it's because people can't draw black hair or something, like, they're not doing that, but that suggests that no one knows how to do, like, a very slight fuzz on set either. So, like, for some reason, there's just a whole bunch of black characters who are male and in charge who have no hair. And it's another one where I'm like, why is this a thing? Then you have the opposite of that, the Afro ass kicker. Again, exactly what it says. It is a character who has an afro and kicks some ass. You don't even have to be black, it's just that this trope has so many black people in it, gee, I wonder why, that most people view it as a black trope. And I don't know, even TV Tropes acknowledges that makes no damn sense. Like, that is a big amount of hair to have to worry about every single day if you are constantly kicking ass. Like, I love these fucking tropes. All that being said, and bringing up all these tropes, at the end of the day, as anyone who's consumed enough media will tell you, tropes aren't inherently bad. Well, most tropes aren't. Most of us agree that black is bigger in bed and the magical Negro should probably go die in a frickin' fire. But having a trope suddenly show up doesn't inherently make a character bad or good in terms of writing. It just means that the trope exists. Having a black female character be a wise ass isn't inherently bad. Having a black male character be inherently the strongest person on their team isn't inherently bad. The issue just comes from how often you see these things happen and how a lot of these things have a bad history, especially here in North America. As I said, the black boss lady being a constant domineering force of threatening energy would not be nearly as bad if we didn't have the history of the Sapphire. But sadly, when you have a whole bunch of character dynamics that you want to have exist in your story, you're going to have patterns emerge, and it just so happens that some of those patterns look a lot like some really unsavory patterns from the past. I definitely used Amanda the Wall Waller as an example of a domineering, angry black woman in the black boss lady role. And yeah, she fits that to a T. But if anyone ever tries to fuck with that stereotypical, domineering, nightmare fuel, kind of borderline masculine image of her, again, then you're going to see a real angry black woman as I storm a fucking studio. Because if you take away the intimidation factor of Amanda Waller, if you take away even her physical largeness and the structure of her face and her absolute terrifying glare, then you get rid of the motive she has for even acting like that. You get rid of the backstory of her escaping a place that literally represents the US's failure when it comes to public housing, and how she lost her loved ones in the event that caused her to leave, which motivated her to do something about the underground and more ugly parts of America. You lose that side of her that makes her say, well, this is a shitty situation. This is a shitty situation specifically in the country I live in, partially because of who I am, and I mean the parts of me that I cannot control. And I'm going to do something about it, and I'm going to fight my way to the top no matter how much my soul I have to lose along the way. Most of the time in the comics, if Amanda Waller is fighting in an argument, she's cold, disturbing, collected, and she is right. She tells you to your face that you are wrong and she is right, and she is not nice about it at all. And that's what makes her such a good character. That is the Amanda Waller that looked Batman in Cal in the face and said, "Rich boy." And having a black character be a side character isn't inherently bad, it's just bad that we rarely see the reverse. Even nowadays, more often than not, if a new TV show or movie is coming out and there is a white character and a black character, the white character is the main character and the black one their support. All tropes are good in moderation. Every single trope only becomes a problem when it's overused. And if Black Panther and Bridgerton have taught us anything, Hollywood, learn your lesson, finally! Then it's that people are completely willing to watch something from a black person's perspective. They are completely fine with seeing things from a black person's point of view. So for the love of God, as I'm going into the industry that freaking makes this freaking media and I start, can I get a little bit more before I start so I have a bit more of a chance, please, when I walk in the door? Anyway, I'm gonna go find a black movie or something involving blackness to review before February ends, and ideally I'll get the video out before February ends as well. So happy Black History Month, everybody, and I'll see you in a bit, media lovers. What the fuck? I already forgot my lines. With the power of makeup. Okay. With the power of makeup, plastic surgery, or some weird sci-fi or magic weapon, I have obtained the look of an African American. Fuck, why am I doing this? I'm off to learn a valuable life lesson about how horribly black people have it after being discriminated against in the most horribly what the fuck is the word? Dramatic. I'm off to learn a valuable life lesson about how horribly black people have it after being discriminated against in the most dramatic ways possible. Fuck. I'm off to learn a valuable life lesson about how horribly black people have it here by being discriminated against in the most dramatic ways possible because microaggressions don't fucking exist.
What do you want? You want me to hack into your boyfriend's computer?
Well, I was thinking, since you are... Well, I was thinking, since you're a major tech genius and you 90% of the time haven't graduated from high school, Well, I was thinking... I don't know what I get him for his birthday! Why do my fucking roommates deal with my shit?